here we are on question number 10. Okay, now remember, the last thing we did was we decided how are we going to find the y-intercept in a quadratic equation. So now that we know how to find the y-intercept, we're going to find the x-intercept. And then, remember there's two x-intercepts, and then once we have the y and the x-intercept, we're going to be able to graph that parabola. Okay, now finding the x-intercept is a little trickier than finding the y-intercept. And you're going to see why, okay? Because the thing is, it kind of starts off the same. Remember, like with the y-intercept, we plug in 0 for x to find the y-intercept, and we're just going to do the opposite, right? We know this. We know this from when we did it with lines. So remember here, we're going to plug in 0 for y to find the x-intercept, because we know that those points that are on the x-axis, they have a 0 value in the y space, right? And we looked at that in our notes on page 83. These points that are on the x-axis, this point is like negative 3, 0. This is negative 2, 0, 4, 0, right? All of those have the y as the 0 as their y value. Okay, now here's the thing. Once I plug in 0 for y, it's going to be just a little bit more challenging to solve for x. Let's take a look at an example. Okay, I'm going to plug in 0 for y. Okay, now we are used to seeing the 0 on this side, on the other side. So if you want, at this step, if you want, and it really doesn't matter, it's just a matter of preference, if you want to write it like this and put the 0 on the right, do that. It doesn't matter, okay? Like, I'm just going to leave it like this for this one, but on the next example, you'll see I'm going to flip it around just because I can. And I generally like to have like my big old equation on the left and then equal 0 on the right, but it actually doesn't matter, right? Either way, these two things are equal. Okay, so now, what do I do here? And this is where it's a little bit trickier than the y-intercept, because right here, the y-intercept, we just kind of did the math and we ended up with a number. But here, after we plug in 0 for y, we're going to have to solve by factoring. And we're actually going to learn other ways to solve these too. But right now, we're working on solving by factoring. So remember this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to change it to something that looks like this. Okay, so remember, in this case, I have no number here in front of the x squared. There's no number in front of the x squared. So when I see that, then I'm just looking for two numbers, right? In fact, here, let me write this so that you can actually see it. Sorry. If I have nothing in front of the x squared, right, then I'm looking for two numbers that add to this, negative 4, and multiply to negative 21. Okay, so now, what are those two numbers that add to negative 4 and multiply to negative 21? So you might be thinking to yourself, like, okay, well, 21 is 7 and 3. 7 times 3 is 21. Now, if I want it to be negative 21, then I need one of them to be negative. Well, which one should I make negative? Well, if I want them to add to negative 4, I need to make the larger number negative, so it's going to look like this. Okay, and now, here's what I have. I have what's called factored form, right? Where this times this equals 0. This times this equals 0. Well, if these two things multiply and equal 0, then one of them must equal 0. So either x minus 7 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. And I can go ahead and solve these equations. To get x by itself, I'm going to add 7 to both sides. I get x equals positive 7. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I get x equals negative 3. Now remember, these are x-intercepts. These are points. So this is an x value. And what's the y value? Well, look, the y value is 0. Remember, I plugged in 0 for y. Okay, this is a point where the x value is negative 3. And what's the y value? The y value is 0. I plugged in 0 for y. So when I go to graph this, right, this point, 7, 0, will be here. And this point, negative 3, 0, will be something like here. And those are my, and those are my x-intercepts. Okay, let's do one more example. Okay, in this case, I'm going to plug in 0 for y, right? I'm plugging in 0 for y. Now watch what I'm going to do. Remember I talked about last time, it doesn't matter which side the 0 is on. Okay, so this is still me plugging in 0 for y. I just moved it to the other side. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter which side the 0 is on. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, and this video's code word is lion. The word lion, L-I-O-N, lion is the code word. Okay, now, again, I'm going to solve by factoring here, right? Which means I'm going to have something like this. And I notice, that there's not just a 1 in front of here, right? So remember, what I remember about factoring this is that these two numbers are going to multiply to this, and these two numbers are going to multiply to this. So when I have a 2x squared here, that means this is going to be 2x times x. That's going to give me the 2x squared. And then this is going to be a 1 and a 5, right? The only numbers that multiply to 5 are 1 and 5. So like if I put a 1 here and a 5 here, and then let's check and see if that works. Remember, this is where I try it, and then I see if it works, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like here, I'll get 2x times 5. That'll be 10x plus 1x. Oh, that's not 7. Let's switch these. Let's check this one. This will be 2x plus 5x. Perfect. That'll be 7, right? Like, look, if I multiply this back out, 2x times x gets me 2x squared. This is plus 2x plus 5x. That'll combine to 7x. And then 5 times 1. Okay, so I factor this. So now, once again, okay, I'm gonna have this times this equals 0. So either this must equal 0 or this equals 0. And I'm gonna go ahead and solve. Right, and in this case, I actually need 2 steps to solve. And in this case, I only need 1 step to solve. Okay, and I also noticed that on this one, both intercepts are negative. That's okay, right? Oh, sorry, let's write out the intercepts first, right? This is x value of negative 2.5, y value of 0, right? Because I plugged in 0 for y. This is x value of negative 1, y value of 0. And in this case, they're both over here on the negative side, right? Here's negative 2.5, 0. And here's negative 1, 0. And that's okay, right? This is a parabola that's going to look something like this. Right? And the y-intercept actually here is 5, and so it can look something like that. So you're going to try this skill twice. You're going to be trying to find the x-intercept twice. So that is going to be question 11 and question 12 for you to try out this process.